Alright, hey guys, what's up? It's Wesconator the Guy, and today I'm doing things a little differently. Usually when I'm talking on videos, I just go off of, say, the vague ideas of either what I want to talk about or in-the-moment reactions to what is happening. This time, I've prepared a full script. Everything I'm going to say has already been predetermined to allow as smooth a flow as possible. Anyway, the focus of today's video is going over my run of videos for the first few days of April 2025, which was an April Fool's event where I presented a version of each Dimenzone with a twist. The main inspiration for this is the YouTube channel Siva Gunner, known for pulling the same trick with video game OSTs. So I'm going to run down the list and provide some insight on these a year later. Being the flagship entry in the series, I couldn't just pull any random thing for Thunderstorm Dimenzone. Since it's the first on the list, what better than an opening theme to something? Specifically, the opening theme of my #1 all-time favorite anime, Madoka Magica. That being Connect. It's the name of the song. Due to the Dimenzones being in a work-in-progress state at the time, I wouldn't have every single monster at the ready to use, so I went to at least have someone do the melody. Despite how basic it came together and the specific sounds I used for it, that didn't stop YouTube from recognizing exactly what I was doing, fortunately without consequence. I had initially wished I could have done more in-depth covers and such for these, but I guess I did a good enough job regardless.
Here's a Retroid factoid. Thunderstorm Dimenzone was initially planned to have Krilby, but it ended up replaced with Galvana.
I really enjoy theater. I've done some theater throughout my years in school and seen a number of shows in life. Phantom of the Opera is without a doubt my favorite musical, shout out to Les Mis being a close second, and it's the perfect fit for Haunted Dimenzone. The titular theme is great and all, sure, but the opening overture version hits me way harder every single time, so I went with that. Plus, it helps that this is early in the list anyway. Having an organ monster already on the roster made this very easy, though I wasn't able to capture just how intense the actual song is, but I gave it my best shot with just 3 different monsters. I also threw in a little bonus with a reference to Poke's Wublin Island track as a treat. Some of these have some pretty deep cuts, probably due to how I'll end up making connections between completely random things I just so happen to encounter and remember. Also, I think juxtaposition can be hilarious. But for real, the oddest things will stick with me and pop into my head at the oddest times. So I combined the calming lullaby Dimenzone with the already juxtaposed book Go the F to Sleep, being read by Samuel L. Jackson. Since the event wasn't truly in full swing just yet, I didn't want to make too bold of a choice, so I chose to censor with a dipster sounds. What I forgot was that the video from the book reading I chose had music playing in the background. I couldn't find a version without, so I tried my best to edit just as much as I could without losing the part of it that I needed. But hey, jankiness is a feature on Siva Gunner sometimes, so this might as well just be another entry. So as you can already see, some of these are made more around what the joke for the video is, while the others stick closer to the Dimenzone. There wasn't much rhyme or reason to it, just whichever felt more right for each. For some of the ones that are closer to the Dimenzone, it's also kind of due to both the Dimenzone and the chosen joke being in the same key, such as with Sewer Dimenzone. I went with Weird Al's Hardware Store, as it's been a more recent favorite of mine. And if you have not listened to it, please do. It goes way harder than you would think a song about a hardware store can. And of course, it's Weird Al. And as Homer Simpson said,
"He who's tired of Weird Al is tired of life."
Looking back, I wish I'd used at least a couple more monsters, especially due to how the bridge part starts with just Reedlings spamming the same note, and unfortunately just doesn't work as well without listing the entire stock of a hardware store. But again, the songs were all in a work in progress state, and I let myself get into a time crunch, so I worked with what I had. The joke with Snowfall Dimension Zone has multiple layers to it. Of course, despite being the last upload on April 1st, it was also the last of the Dimension Zones I had uploaded at the time, aside from the prior Dimension Zone update video. And the other layer with that is that the joke of the song, which is Snow Halation from the anime Love Live, has been used multiple times at the end of channel events on Siva Gunner, which would indicate that the event was over. Of course, for mine, it wasn't exactly true yet, but, well, snow for snow.
Here's a Retroid factoid. Geode's Snowfall Dimension Zone sound has been a reference to Snow Halation's chorus all along.
I can't technically say we're at the new ones yet, because for those who don't know or maybe have forgotten, I'd attempted to start a collab for Dreamy Dimension Zone years ago that didn't end up coming into fruition, but we can circle back to that at a later date. Anyway, the joke here, of course, is how MSM had put out an official Dream element along with Mythical Island, which rendered me having to change my Dream element, but it was at least a quick and easy change. So I have Mythical Island Gajube playing constantly with a varying volume. It starts out, of course, quiet, rises up in the middle, and then goes back down. A subgenre of uploads on the Siva Gunner channel are ones that have the joke playing unedited and completely clashing in both key and tempo. Most common example, of course, being everyone's favorite Space Jam. Come on and slam. I decided to go at least for one of these. At least one, but we'll get there later. Now we're in new territory, and despite being full of jokes and gags holidays, all of these were the actual names of the Dimension Zones. Anyway, I tried my best to cover a variety of my personal interests with these, so here's the obligatory Kirby one. Pretty simple explanation. I went with one of my favorite songs from the series. It's the Sky Tower theme, starting from Return to Dreamland. It's, of course, a fitting theme for a sky-high Dimension Zone. Some of these work-in-progress Dimension Zones were in a very incomplete state at the time I had made these. So for Treetop Dimension Zone here, I only had a couple things I could go off of. And I think the main reason I settled on the joke being the Bob Ross theme for this was, well, of course, due to the tree part of it, happy little trees, all that. But also because I believe around the time I was planning these, or somewhere around, I found a channel on TV that seemed to be airing the show nonstop, or at least had a large block of it going. Man, what a guy. So remember how I said some of these were deep cuts? This might be the deepest one, and fitting since this is the titular Deep Dimension Zone after all. For context, there's a famous fake Lost SpongeBob special called A Day with SpongeBob SquarePants, which is a whole rabbit hole in itself, but most of that isn't relevant right now. The important thing is there's this one fake theme for it that someone had made. It just has this ever so off-putting vibe about it, and I guess that made it stick with me enough for it to last enough to become the joke here. And part of me choosing that over everything else was because this was another very incomplete work in progress, so I didn't want to think too much harder for something. The Darkness Dimension Zone one is pretty simple connection. It's the Darkness Imprisoning Me part from Metallica's One. As you can hear in it, I do have at least a couple monsters in this playing that might not line up with the joke song, and that's the case with some other videos. It's because these are their actual Dimension Zone sounds, so enjoy the free teasers.
Here's a Retroid factoid. Some Dimension Zones were crafted with certain monster restrictions. For example, Deep Dimension Zone has no fire monsters, and Darkness Dimension Zone has no electricity monsters.
You're probably wondering what correlation a sandy shore has with the grassy hills of the Sonic the Hedgehog series. And the answer is a bit of an interesting one. See, the current song for Shore Dimension Zone is actually recycled from a scrapped Dimension Zone called Hill Dimension Zone. And earlier on, I had planned to take this whole event further and reference some of the other scrap dimension zones as well, but again, the time constraints. Had to go fast. Byte Dimension Zone was a pretty easy joke to choose, at least from what I remember. It's a year later. Being the Computer Central song from the fourth Don't Hug Me I'm Scared web video. Again, this one also features some actual Dimension Zone sounds. Most of them are at the end.
Here's a Retroid factoid. Well, I may be playing the joke melody here. The real part I'll be playing in the actual song will be something on the channel from years ago, very much related to me myself. Can you figure it out?
As I had stated in the description, the joke for the Ruined Dimension Zone one is something I actually wanted to make for years now. Probably definitely sparked around the time Galvana had first released on Celestial Island. I am glad I waited until now to make it, because it wouldn't have been fully fleshed out back then. I made the shadow monsters the Ghostbusters due to Plasma being weak to shadow in the Colosseum. Then, of course, I made the guns the Dawn of Fire slingshot item, used a water element symbol as the tier at the end. All in all, this was a really fun one to pull together. Alright, I apologize for this one, but I only did it because I really do plan to make this song with the vibes of certain anime opening themes in mind. There's also this thing I kind of feel about certain anime openings, especially some anime's first season openings where they're in the key of E major specifically. They tend to kind of have like a more generic feel to them, like it doesn't fully express like this is this show over being like this is an anime. Of course there are exceptions, but I do have a bunch of them all like one after another in a playlist, and listening to them it feels like they do flow into each other pretty easily. So yeah, expect one of those for this Dimension Zone in the future. Okay, here are the 8 opening themes I bundled together with Poor Ruditoot. The grand reveal. The Love Live School Idol Project first opening. The K-On! First opening. The Quintessential Quintuplets first opening. The Konosuba first opening. The Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai opening. I think that one only has one opening before it shifts into something under another name. I need to catch up, but that's not important. The Kill la Kill first opening. The Konosuba Explosion prequel spin-off thingy opening. And the last one is the Keijo opening. Don't worry about that one. It's not relevant right now. You just know that it's another one of the openings. Don't worry about it. God, Keijo's a trip. Sandy Dimension Zone is also Green Hill Zone. This is solely due to the one line that lives rent-free in my head. Green Hill's looking a lot more like Sand Hill now. That is all. Here's the obligatory Hololive mention. There's 2 different jokes for this one. Somehow I got 2 from probably my most undeveloped Dimension Zone, even at the time of scripting this. Of course, one of those is Bibutax. And I also used a couple parts from Advent's Rebellion. As stated, the real Enchanted Dimension Zone is notably longer than the rest of the Dimension Zone. It just kind of happened as I was working more and more on it. As much as I loved working on this one, unfortunately, this is only the intro part of On Loop, which is also another recurring thing in See If a Gunner videos.
Here's a Retroid factoid. Of the monsters playing, one of them is actually the placeholder sound, which will change in the actual song's first update.
Going back on my interests, here's the Pokemon one. I, of course, had to represent a long-standing favorite of mine, Regice of the Reggies. I love that bunch, and the many versions of their encounter theme or battle theme, so I had to pay a little tribute to it here. I love YouTube poops. You could probably tell that from the couple that I've already uploaded. I also love stupid shit posts. And that's right, we swear now.
Why do you swear now?
I just couldn't think of a better way to describe what the joke of this is. It's already full of swears itself, and even the title is definitely not for all ages, so I decided that, yeah, this is the moment the floodgates will open. I'm an adult. I swear sometimes. I've never designated that this channel is solely aimed at a young audience. This is a place where I can be me. So here's the silly, stupid, shitposty side of me in full swing. If you haven't seen the joke video, YTP Sexer, before, it's absolute nonsense, and I love it. It has a lot of individual elements to it, and I replaced each one of those with some MSM or related thing, be it a monster sound. The monster handler's talking about my original version of Spirits and Composer. The clip from Fandemonium that won't leave my head where Mama just shouts, "Randall!" which stuck with me so much I named my Abomasnow in Pokemon X after it, etc. The only thing I didn't do for this was visuals, which would have been a whole ordeal on its own.
Here's a Retroid factoid. This is the actual placement of Blazing Dimenzone as opposed to the last one in the Dimenzone update video. And that placement was due just to end the video on that Kirby track.
And last, but absolutely not least, Odd Dimenzone. Some Dimenzones have had their bass song solidified for a long time, and this is one of them. Despite being the final one, well, technically not always the final one, but not for the reasons you think. And how fitting is it to loop back around to the same source as the first one of this event? Actually, if you've seen Madoka Magica, you know it's very fitting, but that's not important right now. Anyway, I had a blast making all of these, and maybe I'll return to this in the future, such as returning to scrapped ideas and maybe remastering all of these. We'll see. Well, thank you for watching. I'll see you next... Wait. Oh, I didn't even do a bit. I don't like mac and cheese. April Fool's got you. I love mac and cheese. I love that stuff. Yeah, okay, bye.